Hi guys, it's Lara. Thanks for watching and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will show you how to make 3 types of plant milks yourself at home. It's very easy, and not only it's gonna save you some money because these plant milks end up being less expensive than the ones that you would buy in a store, but it's also going to help you reduce waste. So if that's something you're interested in, then please keep watching. Let's start with the almond milk. So I have here half a cup of almonds. I soaked them overnight. Almonds are quite hard. They definitely need their time to soften a little bit. I have seen in a few recipes that people would remove the peel as well, but I'm not sure how they do it because when I take one of the soaked almonds and try to remove it, it's nearly impossible. So I guess you would have to cook them shortly first, but honestly, I'm not willing to put in the effort. I like the milk as it is with the peel on. And then I have here 3 pitted dates. I always make sure that there really is no pit left, because even if you buy pitted dates, it can sometimes happen that 1 or 2 dates in the baggie will still have the pit in. So you want to check before you throw them into the blender, because otherwise everything would be ruined. Then I have here cinnamon, salt, and flax seeds. First, I always rinse the almond. Then I throw them into my blender and I add the dates, a pinch of salt, about half a teaspoon, sometimes even 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then I pour in 1 1/4 liter of water. I blend all for about 2 minutes. Now you want to strain the almond milk. So I have here this piece of cloth. It's called cheesecloth or straining cloth. And I will pour the milk over this cloth and let it sit a little bit and drip through. And you can help a little bit and squeeze the baggie out, like so. And once the liquid went through, you will be left with this almond pulp, which you can save for later for example, baking. If you are not going to use the pulp immediately, you can just scoop it out and put it into a jar and freeze it for a later use. So I'm gonna continue straining the milk. Now the cloth is a little bit wet, so it's gonna stay on the top of the pot. I find that almonds are the easiest to strain. When I tried it with oats and with cashews, they would kind of stick so much to the cloth and it was all kind of slimy and the liquid would not really come through. I would really have a hard time to squeeze it out. So when it comes to straining, almonds are the easiest. That's the amount of pulp I got from half a cup of almonds. So I personally like using the pulp when I'm baking cakes. So I reduce the amount of flour, and instead of that, I like adding the almond pulp. But we are not done yet. What I like doing is to pouring the strained milk back into the blender. And I like adding 2 teaspoons of flax seeds, and I let it blend for about half a minute, maybe a minute. These are ground flax seeds, and that gives the almond milk a little bit more creaminess. Plus, there you have your omega-3s. At the beginning, we had quite a lot of foam when we filled the almond milk into this glass jar, but after a few minutes it will sink. So if you still have a little bit almond milk left in a glass and it wouldn't fit into your jar, you might want to wait a few minutes because you can clearly see that it's already going down. And now the almond milk is done. You can store it for up to 3 or 4 days in the fridge. Now the cashew milk, I have here half a cup of cashews. I soak them overnight. However, cashews are way softer than almonds and they don't have a peel, so 4 hours would be sufficient. Then I have here 3 pitted dates. Again, I checked that there is really no pit left. And I have here cinnamon, salt and flax seeds. I throw the cashews into my blender and then I add all the other ingredients, so the dates, then about half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, pinch of salt, and since I'm not gonna be straining this milk, I add 2 teaspoons of flax seeds immediately. And just like the almond milk, I blend all for about 2 minutes. And now I will fill the cashew milk directly into my glass jar. I do not strain the cashew milk. I don't find it necessary because it's just nice and creamy. Before you use your cashew milk, you want to either shake the jar a little bit or you take a long spoon and stir it like so, because since it's not strained, it will separate ever so slightly. The cashew milk is absolutely creamy and rich, and it's wonderful in either coffee or tea. And now the oat milk. So the recipes I read always say that you should soak your oats, but I find that you can make it even with oats that are not soaked. So I have here a liter of water. I will add half a cup of oats. These are whole grain, by the way. Then again, 3 pitted dates. A little bit of cinnamon, and just like for the other milks, I'm going to add a dash of salt and 2 teaspoons of flax seeds. I like adding the flax seeds simply for the omega-3s, plus I find that it makes the milk a little bit richer. For the oat milk, I personally like using a strainer. It is not as fine as the cheesecloth or the straining cloth, but I find that the oat milk is quite slimy and it does not really go through my cloth. So I always strain it over a regular strainer and let it sit shortly until the liquid comes through completely, and I always kind of wiggle the strainer a little bit. There's not much left, but it's still stuff that would separate in the jar, and I like keeping that out. See, so you can see the very thin layer now in the strainer, and that's as much as I get out, and that's fine for me. Well, and then I simply fill this into my jar, and the oat milk is done. So there you have it. It's that easy to make your own plant milk, and as you have seen, it does not take much time. The soaking happens by itself. You don't have to be there for that. The only thing is you have to think of it ahead of time. I personally love the almond milk, which is the one in the middle, and the cashew milk in my chocolate chai tea, and I like the oat milk in my oatmeal. Of course, if you want to cook with these milks and you don't want them to be sweet, you can simply leave out the dates and the cinnamon. Now let's talk shortly about the difference between homemade plant milks and the plant milks that you would buy in a store. So when you make your own plant milks, you can easily control the ingredients. The packaging is being reduced only to the packaging for the ingredients, which will last you quite a long time. And you can make your plant milk anytime you need it, as long as you have the ingredients at home. The store-bought plant milks obviously come in a packaging which is not so great. However, there is one benefit. They usually come fortified, mostly with calcium and vitamin D3, sometimes even with vitamin B12, and I think it's possible that they would come with more vitamins than that. So if that's important to you, by all means, buy the plant milk in a store. However, it does not concern me at all because I'm making sure that I'm eating balanced diet, and I'm also taking daily my multi, so I know that everything I need is covered. Making your own plant milk is definitely a great thing, in my opinion, because again, less packaging, you can control the ingredients, but most of all, it's gonna save you a lot of money because plant milks are pretty expensive. I find it easier to take multi every day because at the end it is definitely less expensive than using a plant milk as a source of calcium and some vitamins. And it's also very good for people who are living in an area where it's really difficult to find plant milks in a store, or who are in a situation where they would have to drive really far to get their plant milk. And that is it for today. You will find the macros for the plant milks that we made together today in the description box. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys so much and see you soon.